Do you have a ton of great text animation ideas floating around in your head, but After Effects has you drowning in keyframes? Or worse, it feels like it can't keep up with your creativity. There is a way to use less keyframes, use less extra effects, and even create your own presets to use in future text animation projects. Have you heard of text animators? If not, you're in the right place. I'll break down the basics of how After Effects text animators actually work and show how motion designers use them every day to create dynamic text without getting overwhelmed. So what are text animators and why do you really want to start using them? It's a really powerful tool that After Effects gives you to create beautiful text animations. The text animators let you change your transform properties, which are the position, opacity, scale, rotation, all of those. But what makes it even better and why I would recommend starting to use this tool is that it lets you choose whether you want to animate your text by the character, the word, the line, or a single letter. And you can do a few other things to make it really dynamic. If you're ready, let me show you where to start. Let's start with the basics of the basics. Before you start, you actually have to type something. Text animators are very interesting in the fact that they will not appear unless you have a text layer, because it only exists within the text layer. But once you have a text layer, you go into it by clicking your arrow. And then once you're in there, you'll notice everything looks normal, but there's this little thing over here called Animate with that little arrow. And if you click on the arrow, it brings up a whole bunch of properties that you can change. I'm going to pick position to show you what it can do. So here's the animator one. I'm going to bring up the transform property to show you something interesting. This is our overall layers transform property. This is not the text animator's property. If you look at the position, this is our layers property. This is the text animator position property. And you're going to see how much of an effect the text animator position has over the layers position. Ready? Do you see any numbers moving on the bottom? Nope. The text animator does not affect the layers position at all. The anchor point, wherever you set it, is going to remain in place. It's not going to move unless you change the transform property of your layer. Now you're starting to see how this tool can be used. If it's not affecting your layer, then you have a whole door open to you of text animation possibilities. But the way that this tool's power really boosts your animation goes into all the stuff that is in the range selector. So under your text animator, you open up the range selector, and then you have these three layers. You've got your start, your end, and your offset. Your start can animate your text starting at the beginning of the line. Your end will animate the text from the end of the line, and your offset will animate from both if you go to the negative or to the 100. Or the positive 100. That's the first thing you should know. The reason why you want to pay attention to range selector is because not only does this show you where your word is going to start or end, start animating, whether it's the beginning or the end, you can also pick how far or into your word you're going to have your animation. For instance, if I was to pick, I wanted this word, the first word to already be there, and then I set a keyframe. Let's go 15 frames, and then I have the rest come on. It's only going to animate from that there on. So what else should you know? Is range selector the end of it all? Is there anything else that this can offer? Because I told you this tool is very powerful and it's supposed to offer you a whole bunch of options when it comes to this and less keyframes. But so far it seems like, okay, this is kind of cool, but what else can it do? Well, this is where you're going to get into the advanced part. If you go down to the arrow inside your range selector, which is actually called advanced, you click it open, and now you're really getting into it. I know this looks like a lot, but you only need to pay attention to three things when you're starting out. So we're taking the advanced part of this and we're turning them into basics that you should pay attention to when you're first experimenting. You have to look at based on, shape, and ease and ease high and ease low. Based on is where you get to choose whether you're going to animate by the character, animate by the word, or animate by the whole line. Shape shows whether or not you're going to animate based on the shape. Think of like it as a bounding box, and however your words are going to be squished into that box is how they're going to animate on. If it's in a triangle, for instance, then the top or the middle point is going to animate on first. Personally, I don't use anything other than square, ramp up, or ramp down. I happen to really like ramp up. It's also where you would end up using offset the most. Let me set that back to 0 because you get to choose how it all comes on, and it's very, very subtle and slow. And then ease high, ease low. I'm not going to focus too much on them, but I'm showing them to you because they're the text animators version of ease in, ease out. So does this tool sound powerful yet? Or does it seem like it's missing something? Because if you've only added one transform property to your text animator, you're missing the other part of this tool. You don't have to just add one animator. You don't have to just add one property. If you go back into your animator, and you'll notice right along the line, you have an add plus a button. And if you go here, you can pick your property or your selector. I'm not going to get into selectors here because that gets more advanced. But if you go back to your properties, you have the same options that you had when you went to the Animate button. And you can now add another property. And you can add as many properties as you want to this one animator. It's very, very important that when you're adding another property to your text animator, you're going to want to make sure to click that add button, not the animate button at the top, because if you do that, it's going to create another text animator and it's not going to be the same one. You want to do that, and I'm going to show you why you want to do a second text animator inside your text layer, but not just yet, because I just want to make sure you know how to set keyframes here. It's the same exact thing that you do in any other After Effects layer. You just set your stopwatch and you can do it on any of them. It's better to use the range selector than to put a keyframe on your position, scale, opacity, any property that is open, because if you put it on your property that's inside your text animator, you're all crossing off the reason why you started using text animators in the first place, because you're just going to run into the issue of having all of those keyframes up and being used again and again and again. Text animators are supposed to eliminate it because it's calculating for you how to take what you have as your position and the scale, opacity, measurements, and how to get it to what it was originally. And this is still what I would consider a basic level for text animators. This is where you experiment, you play, and you have fun. There are 3 extra pieces you should know about, and this is where I would say you should add a second text animator to your layer. So if you go into Animate, and I'm going to add another scale, and this time I'm actually going to bump it up, and you can change anything you want on here. Same with the other one. It's a completely separate animator. The difference here is that when you add another keyframe within your range selector and then you play both of them together, it creates that dynamic text, and you can start having layering effects of bouncing, wiggling, scaling. It opens the door on so many ways that you can do text. Whatever you can imagine, you can probably build it in a text animator. The second extra that you should know about is how layer masks interact with text animators. Layer masks affect the layer, but your text animator, as I showed you before, it doesn't move your position. It doesn't change position of your layer. It's only inside the layer that it's moving. When you have a layer mask, you draw it on your layer and then it covers up whatever's on that layer. If you have a text animator that moves your text outside of that layer box of where it's showing what should be shown on the layer, then your text can be revealed in your box and everybody can see it, but it looks like it's just appearing using a keyframe. The reason why I bring up this little secret is because it means one less layer, one less keyframe, one less everything. And the last one is how you make a preset so that you can use it as a later project. This is very useful if you created something you like and you want to use it later on, but you don't want to have to remember how you did all the keyframes. So the way that you do this is that you make sure your text animator or animators are selected. You will need to click directly on them. If you go to your effects and preset panel, and then have you ever noticed that little square at the bottom? When you hover over it, it should pop up saying Save New Animation Preset. You click that button and then this appears. All you have to do is you give your preset a name that you're going to remember, and then you save it in the folder that comes up. Then you go back to Effects and Presets, and you can search for it by name or go to User Presets, and then you drag and drop it into a new text layer. and it's been saved. All of this together should fix why you feel like your animations are falling flat and feeling like After Effects can't keep up with your creativity. If you want to dive into any of the animations you've seen in this video, I'm giving away the After Effects project to my lab members on Patreon. This isn't a one-time giveaway. Even if you sign up months later, you'll have access to it and anything else that I've uploaded.